there's an aspect to it too where it's like the man and the father and caring about the kid after he's born. Everyone brings up that how um, all these pro-lifers don't care about the life after they're born. They just care to defend it before, and then after they could care less what happens to it, right? And they use that as
Mhm.
a to institute like different social programs that are needed and stuff. And we can have that conversation, but I want you to address this first, right? Like, when is that a life?
Yeah.
Like, if you can't address it within the womb, like there's nothing to be had. We just disagree, and you're okay with that. You're okay with killing somebody for
Mm.
your own um, I don't know, your path, living your best life, whatever.
And that's pretty much ultimately what it is. It's that right
It's
there.
inconvenient,
It,
you know?
convenience. There you go. That's it right there.
Yeah.
That's it right
And
there.
it's almost like all that can be avoided, right? If you intentionally date, if you don't engage in this awful hookup culture, that society is like presented as the necessity nowadays. And I saw a tweet from people that are really outraged that a bunch of men are deciding on women's rights, and they said everyone with a uterus just needs to stop having sex as protest. This is the only way.
Oh
We
my
have to do it
goodness.
now. And that's really
Yeah.
interesting that they would go to an abstinence argument, right? But they won't consider
Right.
that
Right.
beforehand of all these things that happen, these unwanted pregnancies. You know, it's
Mm.
unrealistic to practice abstinence, but to hold back your power as a woman, you're willing to practice abstinence in the sense of manipulating the vote or whatever, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, crazy concept. Wait till marriage, right? Find someone that you're gonna marry. And another person posted that I totally agreed with, and I retweeted it. But it's like, if you want to solve the abortion problem, don't have sex with someone you're not willing to have a kid with. Was essentially what it was.
And there you go.
You
There
know,
you go. And
that's all
it
it
just
is
brings
right
it right back to
there.
the Bible.
And tell your
Just
sons
brings it right back
this.
to the Bible.
You know, absolutely. That's our part. That's what we can do as fathers, like inform our children and everything. Like, yeah, don't ever have sex with someone you're not willing to have a kid with. That'll solve a lot of the
Sure.
problems.
Absolutely.
People make mistakes
Absolutely.
throughout history. It's seen, and it's human nature to do that or whatever. If you can't practice abstinence till marriage, don't be just doing it with anybody, because then that kid's life is at risk. You know,
Correct. Correct. Correct.
it's just awful, and
Yeah, no,
I get worked up about
I
it.
love that you addressed all those things because, and it's so funny because when we walk it through, it just seems like it always goes back to God's word. It always goes back to God's instructions to warn us to avoid these situations that ultimately will make our lives more complicated. And I have somebody very close to me recently that um, was kind of fiddling around with somebody he wasn't really initially very interested in, but he was just, having fun. And then, this young lady, uh, you know, was pregnant, and now, like almost instantaneously, his life has changed. He was this bachelor, flea, just flowing through life, and now his life has completely changed. And even though she really didn't know him all that well, she wants her baby.
Yeah,
She wants the baby. So now, initially he wasn't too excited about that, but now he realized like he's whether he likes it or not, this has happened.
yeah,
And his life has just completely changed. And I think about the fact that yeah, he could have actually avoided this, if he just would have been with somebody he actually loves and didn't mind marrying.
yeah. And well, that's the huge thing too with this whole argument that like is like horrifying. Like we talked about earlier, that the real gender equality difference is that women can have that final say. In a lot of states, the men don't have a say. The father doesn't have a say whether
Mm.
his kid gets to live or not. God forbid you, and there's tweets that like um, if she wants to, if she's pro-abortion, she's not the one. If she's willing to kill your kid without your say, without your whatever, she's not the
I
one.
like that.
You know.
I like that. I like that.
So yeah, you need to find someone that has common ground on that stuff for sure. But
I like that.
but yeah, just the dads that are in that position where they can't, they're just helpless. That is an awful scenario that I don't envy for anybody. You know. Um,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
gets into really sketchy territory because you're just ignoring it. You're just ignoring the elephant in the room, that is going to be a human being. It's going to grow into a human being, you know,
Yeah.
and you're just
Yeah.
doing all these other arguments that aren't as relevant. Like, yeah, they matter. Sure, these things are happening. I'm not saying they don't, and I'm not saying they're not important, but they're not
Hmm.
as important as like people actively being killed, you know?
Yes, yes, yes. Big difference.
So I
And
think, and that's not, I'm not trying to get pro-lifers off the hook either. I think we do need to do more and make more efforts to take care of people outside the womb and help struggling moms and everything, and make it less so it doesn't seem like an impossible task. Like I can't do anything, right? They pull up these examples of these mothers that are just outstretched to their limit, and they just can't feasibly have the baby or anything, and it's no excuse. There's no reason to kill someone. It's against the law and it's against God's law. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no reasoning. There's no nothing. You don't have. No one has that right. But we've deluded ourselves in society to kind of thinking it's okay. When
mm-hmm.
it's not. And so yeah, like I was
Yeah,
saying, I think we can do more to be there for the women in need after birth. And my whole goal is to get dads to stop being deadbeats and stick around and raise the damn kids. Stick around and be there for them because it matters. And
yes, yes,
that's
yes,
how I'm
yes,
trying to help and tackle this whole thing. And we have a big responsibility too. Like it takes two people to create a child. It takes a man and a
yes, it
woman.
do.
It is both their
Yes, it do.
responsibility. Do not
Yeah,
procreate with someone you're not willing to have a kid with. You're playing
correct,
with fire. You're playing with a life here. It's
correct,
important. You can't just gloss
correct.
over that for whatever reason. I don't care what your situation is.
Yeah, yeah. I have to say, I do respect the men that, um, like even the person I'm making reference to that I know, you know, they were kind of just flowing through life, and once they realized, like, okay, this is happening, the appropriate adjustments started to happen in his own life. He's realized, like, okay, I need to actually
Beautiful.
step up, and make preparations, and one of the things you brought up that I really appreciate about, I'm going to say a lot of dedicated, I don't know if I want to say conservative Christians, but well, for example, one of the ministries that I keep up with and I support is Apologia Church, and they're in uh, Arizona, and they often go to abortion mills, Planned Parenthoods, and they protest, legally. They have bullhorns, but they'll do the appropriate decimal level to not violate the law. But they're familiar with the law. And what I love about the pastor, especially Pastor Jeff Durbin, is he's on the front lines, and he often talks to these mothers, these families, but even the staff at Planned Parenthood, and challenge them. And often when they say, "Well, you guys, you Christians or you conservatives, whatever, you're so big on saving their life, but once these parents or these families need help, you're nowhere to be found." And what I love is that he pulls out his phone and he starts showing them all the children that he saved
Yeah.
because he's been standing at sometimes at that specific site. And he'll say they run around at his church. They're 5 years old. This one's 6 years old. This one's 12. And he tells people, directly, we do have lawyers on standby that will provide help right now. We do have access to pregnancy centers. That's something I wanted to bring up just for anybody listening. There are pregnancy centers that will help you, no cost needed. They will help you with resources. They're like the opposite of Planned Parenthood, and they're all over. Please find them, look for
Yeah.
them, Google. Yeah, they will help you with resources. They will help you with, and you can donate. People can donate to these places as well, but they will help you. Um, yeah, but I love the people that do stand up and they mean what they say. They actually adopt. This pastor, he has adopted children as well. So he's not only preaching it, he's actually practicing it.
Yeah.
So I love the people that actually you know
Absolutely, are accountable
yeah, yeah,
and practice what they
yeah,
preach. That's 100% the truth, and I think we should all be more like that. And not everyone can adopt. Not everyone's situation is different. It's a huge undertaking, and I don't encourage you to do it just for the sake of this cause. Only do it if
yeah,
you're gonna
yeah,
be there, if you're willing to take on
yeah,
another kid and love them like your
yeah,
own.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. You
and
have to have the heart for it for sure.
yeah, and I think
Hmm.
especially like you need to like analyze if you're not loving your kids right, don't bring another kid into that scenario.
Yeah, please. Yeah, exactly.
So make sure you
Agreed.
have a loving house to offer before you get into that. But not that it's
Amen
anybody's
to that.
business, but me and my wife have even considered we're gonna adopt a kid someday. Because
Uh-huh.
of all these things
Uh-huh.
that happen, and because there's so many kids in need in the foster systems, however it is. That's our plan someday. Once we have a couple of our own, or
Uh-huh.
whenever we feel the right time to do that is. But so yeah, absolutely. I think that argument is thrown out a lot, but there's not really any data or evidence to correlate it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
even so, I would whatever you would say about conservatives or whatever, I wouldn't say leftists are more viable to adopt. They're more like,
Yeah,
there's no argument there that's like statistically backed, right? It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
a complex subject
Agreed.
that you're pushing on them, right? I did
Mm,
hear a George Carlin bit, which I love him, right? He's a great comedian. He's really funny, but
mm,
I think he's just off center here, off point, where he's making the arguments like we all just said, where they don't care about women and stuff, and they only care about the life when they're in the womb, and then afterwards they
yeah, yeah,
don't,
yeah,
and until they're
yeah, yeah.
18, then they send them off to war and stuff, right?
Oh
And
goodness.
it's like that last comment, like you can make comments about the military industrial complex all you want, but that's not like a pro-life issue. You know what I'm saying?
Mm, mm,
Yeah, we can talk about the what death penalty and everything, right? And different stances on that. But
mm.
yeah, you're just kind of pulling away from the argument. It's almost like a natural human reaction because we know we're in the wrong to point at
Oh, absolutely.
literally any other argument, anything else to distract from the fact that like not admit that that baby is a kid. Anything you can think of, and I've gone, pretty hyperbolic here. Like I said, it's a topic I'm very passionate about, not just because of my own kids, but I've seen the
Mhm.
process. It's a beautiful process, and I'm so passionate about building a loving family home. I'm trying to build better dads and everything. That's my whole thing, and it extends to this. But I want to encourage, just from a Christian perspective, I admit when you said that this ministry is going out and protesting at those clinics, I did get a little worried because we do see a lot in the media or whatever. Everyone points to the Christians that are protesting or whatever as like bad examples, and they're, you're going to hell. God hates F words. God hates, whatever, right? And my pastor made a big good point on it a while ago, where it's like you don't want to bring that message to somebody that is in one of their most vulnerable positions they've ever been in, right? Take the token situation that you want, right? A young girl that shouldn't have it, right? Or that's going through all this and they're very nervous about everything, right? Whatever the most victim situation you can think of, right? You need
Mhm.
to come to that person. You can't like point out like sin and everything like that. That's not
Mhm.
helpful to anybody with any thing like that. And I think it's beautiful, kind of what the person that talked to your mom did. That's a good way to go about it. You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, what I essentially love about that approach is that the person directed my mother to God, to the Bible, and that's, I think, most important aspect is God is going to have the final say when it comes to good and evil, and we have the Bible, so we already know what He says about it, and I do think it's important to warn people that if they're thinking about uh, dismantling their baby because yeah, they want to go to college and have some more fun and stuff like that. Um, I think we should warn them. We should at least warn them. Now, I do think that the way you do it in your approach should be kind and considerate, but I think also everyone should be warned that, hey, by the way, you are actually violating God's commandments, and you're going to have to answer to Him on Judgment Day. You know
Yeah.
that comes along with it because it's very difficult to appeal to somebody um, and it's not about God, Like, I could say, well, hey, it's really you shouldn't steal that. And it's like, well, why? You say, but it's really not nice. But why? Oh, well, it's not very considerate of others. Yeah, but why? Why is it not considered? What's the standard? You would always go back to God's word
Yeah.
because God, yeah, because God said. But this particular ministry, Apologia Church, phenomenal. I definitely recommend you guys check out Pastor Jeff Durbin because he is not one of those pastors that stay in the pulpit. He's in the pulpit and he's in front of Planned Parenthoods. He's preaching. He's somebody who goes to Congress and he will challenge the legislators face to face, not just letters and staying and at home. This guy is on the front line. So I will say he's one of those few pastors that I really truly admire because he puts he puts everything he's preaching. He's practicing it, and he's really building up people to really to step forward and not really just talk about stuff, but actually be about it. And he's actually one of those people that I really admire. And
Yeah.
this is one of the reasons why I'm so big on ministry work is because he doesn't hold back. And there's a lot of uncomfortable conversations he has with people, especially regarding abortion. And there's ministries regarding that, just connected to his church. And what I love is it's not his thing. Like his wife's a part of it, his family, and he has a huge family, But he's really raised up a lot of men and women in his church to go out and start their own ministries to help people, and really discuss what it is that you and I are talking about right now, but actually offering resources, instead of just saying, "Hey, you shouldn't do this," and then like walk away.
Yeah,
Like
right. Just
actually
leave
have
them with
some
that.
yeah, have some information like, "Hey, here's the nearest pregnancy center. Hey, we will adopt your baby. Please don't end the life. We will adopt them." And so it's really nice to see that. So it's very encouraging, very encouraging. It really change your uh, mindset when you realize, oh, there's actual people that are actually very serious about this. So so but I have heard, and I've had atheist buddies tell me, oh, you can, Christians, conservative, don't really care about the baby until they're born, and then you don't really care about them, and it's like there are some people that, yeah, they do have a lot to say about the abortion topic, until, yeah, the baby is born. Then it's like, okay, you know, but yeah, but there are many ministries that are demonstrating that, it's the opposite. Like we know, even from a statistical standpoint, more Christians adopt, more Christians give,
Yeah.
even if they don't make a lot of money. So it's just, more Christians build hospitals,
And
so it's just,
schools and everything and
yeah, yeah,
ministry and
yeah, yeah,
mission
absolutely, yeah.
projects.
Absolutely, missionary work as well. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. God is still using people.
Yeah.